What did you just say that I told you to hold your tongue about?
Well, I can talk because we're about to get going. I'm actually going to clip this to my seatbelt. I think it might actually work better.
You might.
Anyway, we're trying it. This is the car ride home. And
From,
we're at the Alamo Draft House or parking garage near it in Westminster, Colorado. And my husband Jeremiah goes by Miah. We're driving in the topless Ford Bronco. So this will be interesting. And what did we just see?
we saw Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
Not Barbie. Barbenheimer, whatever.
We did see a bunch of Barbie goers.
But I can see the appeal.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I need something to cleanse my palate.
I know. Maybe we need to watch some comedy later or something.
Oh.
After giving some adequate thought to all this. It was intense, y'all. Which, no spoilers, but you probably know this movie's about the atomic bomb.
Yeah, it's a historical biopic, so, full spoilers going forward. If anybody actually listens to this, good on you.
Yeah, thank you.
Support me, I'll give you my Venmo, and you just give me $1 million.
$1 at a time.
$1 million at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Inflation has struck.
That's right.
Speaking of, there's a Barbie poser.
Oh, she's filming herself too.
Yeah, she's
That's very
filming
cute.
herself posing as Barbie.
Yeah, so if you go see Oppenheimer, particularly at a theater that is also airing Barbie, you're probably going to be walking through a sea of pink, people clad in pink, people dressed like Barbies, which is not bad. Just watch out for the selfie patrol.
Yeah. If they decide to take a picture in a movie theater and you're in it,
mm-hmm.
that's on them.
That's right.
So don't worry about it too much. Still walk in between the camera, but if you're behind it, whatever.
All right.
You had just said, because I am probably going to see this again.
Yeah, with our daughter, because she wants to see it. I'm a little jealous because I saw the movie today, obviously kind of reacting to it firsthand. Now I want to go back and see it, which you will be able to with a more of a film crit eye for decisions and, tactics and stuff.
And I'll know when to pee,
Yes.
That's the big one. It's 3 hours long. A little less than 3 hours, 180 minutes or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Credits are quite extensive.
Yeah, well, it would be with that. That is a big, obviously huge movie. And y'all, everybody's in it. Like,
Don't even talk about that. Like, see it and be surprised that, oh, he's in it. Oh, she's in it. Oh, he's in it.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to be like, oh, and then don't spend time like, where did I see that person? Do that
You'll
later.
Never get it.
With IMDb. Just wait, because there's a lot to take in.
Except Truman.
I did find that tracking all the different character names, that was a little challenging.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was on purpose. Some of the character names were intentionally unsaid until they were it's the typical Nolan non-linear.
Yeah.
He does a good job. He doesn't do it as well as Tarantino does it. I think Tarantino's more affectatious because it's not every 5 minutes.
Well, and I mean, gosh, if you're holding Pulp Fiction up as a standard, that's going to be a hard one to meet anyway.
There's other ones too, but
yeah.
It does come around together. I don't think I've seen a better film this year.
Yeah. So this is better than Mission Impossible 6?
This year, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mission Impossible 6 actually made me think it was a little too long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was super long.
This one never did. And they're about the same length. Roughly. So, to get into it a little bit, J. Robert Oppenheimer.
Yes.
Father of the nuclear bomb. That was a Time magazine cover.
Mm-hmm.
In an era not too far from removed when Time magazine put Hitler on the cover as their man of the year.
That's right.
Let's not discount the fact that the United States at that time was at war with Germany, not because they really wanted to or really disagreed with them all that much, but just because they had to be.
Yeah.
Don't get into the specifics of that. It's it was a big deal, still a big deal. But he was head of the Manhattan Project at Los Alamos. It was his...
He was director.
Brainchild to put it in New Mexico.
Yes. Why though? Because and I read some history on Oppenheimer too. He loves New Mexico.
Yeah.
or loved.
I think
guess.
he died in New Mexico.
Yeah, he had a, and they I thought they did a good job translating the movies. Like, and he makes a statement about really, and I won't say exactly what that is, but he really says, "I just want to work in New Mexico." Doing what he loves.
Do physics and be in New Mexico is a line from the movie. We've just spoiled that.
Oh,
but this is all spoilers.
That's true.
Apparently.
Might as well.
But hopefully the wind isn't too bad. We got the top off. Got the windows up though.
Well, this is our first episode of this, so.
There'll probably be more. Might be a Barbie one with me and my daughter if I can get her to speak. Because I don't know if you want to see Barbie.
I'll see it. It depends on if we do have an Alamo pass, so we could go see it. You
Highly
certainly
recommend
could go see
Alamo
it. I do want to see it. And again, we're not talking about Barbie necessarily in this one, but I've heard good things. I've heard I should see it.
Yeah, and in studying the history of war a little bit, a little background on me, I do have a degree in history, and weapons of mass destruction was one of my classes that I had. And like the first class was like beginning of recorded time to like the bomb, basically. That's putting it a little simply, but it was spent a lot of time on nuclear weapons, and it was basically early 20th century when they had gas warfare or something like that. So the nuclear bomb was just, some people would say, an extension of the warfare that was new to the world in World War I, where that gave us tanks, that gave us, radio communications, aerial combat. It was escalating exponentially is basically what was happening. So Oppenheimer was a physicist, influenced by Einstein and a bunch of other older physicists who theorized about the atomic energies and things like that, and uranium and plutonium were being developed. We're all around the same time. There was a lot of people who didn't think it could actually be done.
Yeah, well, including them, I think, until, like in the movie, they talk about how it was done, and then they're like, "Oh, let's go try it next door in the lab," and they did it in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Separating an atom, I think, right?
Or sustained fission.
Yeah, sustained fission.
So sustained fission, if you listen to this, whatever, for you, my co-driver here, it's the continually breaking down of atoms. So your fission means to spread apart, right? Causing a fissure, if you will. So you're taking an electron out of an atom, in its own elemental state, not in a compound or in a molecule, but out of its atomic state. That's what I call it, atom bomb. So taking an electron that orbits the nucleus of an atom or a proton, one of these it's a neutron. So you have electrons, protons, and neutrons. Neutrons is what gets expelled in the atomic blast. Neutrons are what causes radiation. So if you get burned by UV, that's neutron radiation. The radiation that if you pick up a piece of plutonium and die of cancer, that's the neutron radiation causing that.
I think neutrons are also causing us to hit every red light.
Which is fine. It gives us a break in the wind shears.
Can I pause there for a second too and point something out? I thought they did a really good job in the movie of explaining conceptually what they were trying to do. For people who are like me, I'm like, what?
Sort of.
You're explaining it now, but I thought the movie did a good job.
And I've read some things, and a lot of the specifics are still classified on how to make a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, it's not a YouTube how-to video or anything
No,
like
you'll
that.
get flagged.
Yeah.
Almost immediately.
Yeah.
It's obviously something that's in the world. And if you wanted to become a nuclear physicist, you have to go through a process of vetting, like a whole security background, to even get into the programs that would give you the basic knowledge to actually how to do it.
Jeez.
It's pretty crazy. I looked into it. And not that I was wanting to do it, but I was looking at the history of well then, who maintains these, who builds these new ones, who is doing all this other stuff. It was more research on that one, and it's like you have to go through a huge process to do this.
Yeah.
So they touch on the Los Alamos, they touch on his infidelities, albeit, as they call him in the movie, we'll call him here,
Hoppy.
was a philanderer,
Yeah.
extreme philanderer, basically. Had affairs all the way until almost till he died, I think.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
common.
you know, women like women like smart men. It's hot. Me, case in point. I like your brain. I think it's awesome. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying, there's something there.
But
Not
as
that
far
he
as the
should've
movie
cheated.
goes, it does a good job of that. It does a good job of saying the right words.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably had access to, I mean, there's Los Alamos stuff. Not everything's been declassified, but there's been books written about it. There's been physicists who wrote their accounts about it that has been, stuff that they can talk about. That's,
Yeah.
all declassified stuff there. The fact that Los Alamos is even known is a declassified situation.
Yeah.
At one point, it was classified, right? And this lady's about to hit me, like she's all the way over my land.
Don't do that. That's neutrons. We're not trying to make a fission reaction going on here.
Right.
Yes.
But they do a good job of that, and they're actually using the real terms. That's a Christopher Nolan thing, where he wants to be as grounded and real as possible. I would definitely say, I don't think Cillian Murphy is going to get he might get an Oscar nomination for this, as far as like all that goes. I don't think the Oscars are worth a hill of beans,
Yeah.
frankly,
Truth, me
in
neither.
determining what good film is.
Yeah.
They've jumped that shark a long time ago. And with all the writer strikes and everything on there, it's like the whole Hollywood is just a piece of crap, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But for awards, the actor who did the best job in this one, oh, that's a bus. Let's get in front of the bus. It's loud. Is our buddy Iron Man himself.
Robert Downey Jr. is in this movie, and yeah,
He
he's not
nails
He's not Tony Stark in this role,
Yeah, he nails this role like he does with most of his roles now.
dude.
And it's pretty much hit it out of the park. And I think Emily Blunt
Yeah.
also nailed it above Cillian Murphy, who's the star.
Yeah, she plays Oppie's wife,
Yeah, I can't remember her name, Kitty or something like
Kitty.
that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it deals with like alcohol postpartum, I think.
oh yeah, all kinds of
And then-
issues. Lived on in Los Alamos.
Yes, and dealing with him cheating and
Knew about all that. Well documented that she knew. I think Cillian Murphy does a bang up job. I'm just saying, these other three were just phenomenal. I've still got to look up a couple of the actresses and actors that are the Boimler's in it from Lower Decks.
that's right.
Jack Quaid. So without getting into all of that stuff.
Yeah, we don't have IMDb open in front of us,
Yeah.
y'all, so we'll link to the IMDb of this movie on the show notes.
There you go.
Yeah.
A couple of criticisms I have of it is I didn't appreciate the cuts between time as much as I think other ones that he's done. That didn't work for me on this one, but it also pays off in the end. So I'm like, oh, we'll see. I'm gonna see it again, and I might have a better opinion of it.
Yeah.
But also, I really would have liked to have seen because they have spoilers. Here's a spoiler for you: the United States of America is the only sovereign nation to use nuclear weapons against another sovereign nation.
Yes.
In the history of nuclear weapons.
That's right. Nobody else did it. They might have been thinking about it, but we were the only ones.
Yeah, somebody who's a historian, or reads newspapers might quibble with that, saying, well, nuclear weapons were used in the Iraq War. Yes, tactical nuclear weapons for blowing up tanks. They're tiny. They're really, really tiny.
Surgical strikes.
Yeah, and not necessarily causing a bunch of radioactive fallout in a 1,000-mile mushroom cloud. So I would have liked to have seen the moment that they do drop the bomb. They do it in this movie. I would have liked to have seen the reaction when the aftermath was shown to the scientists
Yeah.
at Los Alamos. They were shown classified aerial photography, and because they all had clearance and they were part of it, and they needed to just have that information for their scientific research. It ended up being like a 20 megaton bomb or something like that. And I think the Hiroshima one was 20, and Nagasaki was like 15 or something like that. It's kind of weird, but they showing actual maybe news footage of that, or even doing a scene with makeup and stuff, could have added to that moment. I was waiting for it and they didn't show it.
Well, I think they replicated it though. There's a moment when I really liked, we're going to have some emergency vehicles go by here, so I might pause what I'm saying depending on where they go. Hey, this is why we're doing it on the ride home. We never know. But they show the way they show the aftermath, like the immediate reaction of the scientists. There's triumph in what they accomplished, but immediately you get faced with the, wait a second, what did we just do? And I'm going to stop talking there because we do have a big
Mr.
old
Fire
fire truck coming through here. Okay, then this guy. Oh.
You did the right thing.
Yeah, I just didn't know where he was
Get out of the
going.
way. Just don't ever. If there's a fire truck behind you, do not stop.
Yeah,
You keep going so you can get out of the way.
that's right.
A little PSA for you young ladies and girls out there.
Yeah. Young ladies and girls and
That's right.
boys and men.
I don't know.
Anyone who drives, basically.
Only women can't drive, all right?
Yeah, I'm going to leave that in and let people react to that.
That's gonna get.
I certainly do. So were any more negative or what you would have hoped for?
They showed the elation. They showed that, and they showed the fervor of American patriotism, even though they were, hundreds of thousands of people were dead, and people died for decades after that from the poisoning. It poisoned that whole area for a long time, more so than they could even realize at that time. They knew there was going to be fallout. They didn't realize how much it would be almost instantaneous death.
Yeah.
Because it was so scattered in the air, you breathed it in and you were dead. You were dead. There was no cure. There was no treatment. There is no treatment still. Like if this happened now, you would not survive. Like if you survived the blast and came out and you were near it, you
were going to die because of radiation.
Yeah, you would just die of the radiation.
Yeah.
That is absolutely what would happen. And you can YouTube this. You can find this on Google searches of just actual footage of the aftermath.
And you should. I think that it's important people do. I mean...
And it should have been in this movie.
Yeah.
And not at the part where he's having this, like congratulatory speech or whatever. It was when the top, department heads were given the information.
Yeah.
Before, the entire thing, was like dissected for its, scientific
So I'm
value.
going to counter a little bit. So the movie is called Oppenheimer. It's about Oppenheimer, and you very much, you see the whole movie from his perspective.
Yeah.
He's in every scene, and
yeah, he is in every scene.
And so,
and he was shown this stuff. That's why I'm saying that's when we can
exactly. But you do see. I think you are given his thought processes and reactions and how he deliberates. And his perspectives after they do take it and drop it on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and you see that from his perspective. So you get some of that, which I think was really good because again, it's the father of the atomic bomb, and he was a huge part of why it was even possible. And so seeing his responses to it and like, wow, what does this mean? What have I contributed?
Hold on. We got a motorcyclist.
We do. Yes, but what kind of motorcycle? It's Is it a Harley? You're not a Harley fan.
I do not like Harleys.
Nay.
I don't.
And not just because that one was loud. He does not like Harleys.
Yeah. I like loud bikes. I don't like that loud bike.
Ah, he went through. Yay, go through the light. But
So,
anyway, so
to counter that,
Okay.
if he was on it, you could have seen it when he saw it, because that affected his decisions going forward in his life. So that was pivotal, and they needed to show it.
I feel like that
and
was
its
intentional.
public domain should have been in there.
I don't agree. I'm going to disagree with you there because I think Nolan made an intentional choice to not show us what he was seeing and how he looked down in that scene where it's like he's taking it in and it's like, nope, this is about him. Y'all are going to go look this up later, I hope, or you've already seen footage. You will have your own reactions. This is about Oppenheimer.
Spawning a homework assignment is not a movie's position and he missed a spot there.
Yeah.
He could have taken out 5 to 10 minutes of their gratuitous sex that did not need to be in there. He's a philanderer with more than just one woman. He had
Dude. Where are they coming?
tons of mistresses.
Is it behind us?
Another emergency vehicle.
I know.
I don't see
Sounds
it.
like a fire truck too, but I can't tell where they are. Well, we're fixing to find out, I think. I feel like
Yeah.
it's behind us.
We did not need to see that, like
No.
at all. You know, in the way that it was shown.
Yeah.
It was gratuitous for, I don't know, gratuitous sake. I mean, it didn't feel like it served any purpose.
I agree with that. I think that was...
Yeah. Having nudity and gratuitous sex are not the same thing. There is a scene, spoilers, where there's 2 nude actors sitting. That didn't feel gratuitous. There's a bunch of other stuff in here that really did, that could have been either more tastefully done or cut out entirely, frankly. It didn't add to the movie at all, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that could have been replaced with that footage. But that is like, I gotta tell my daughter that that's what we're gonna see.
Yeah,
and
she'll
she's
have to
gonna make a
look away.
choice if she wants to see it or not. And
Yeah.
She does not like gratuity
No.
in that way.
It was... So, I know before we saw the movie, I can't remember what we were watching. We do a lot of cool YouTube quizzes. And so if any of you have ever seen the movie Hunt for Red October, there's a moment in it where Captain Rami is played by Sean Connery. He's in his captain's quarters with a KGB agent, winds up dying. That's not spoiling anything. This movie's been out for a whole hell of a long time. But the man, he's kind of like trying to get a gotcha on Captain Ramius. Again, this is Russian KGB, but he's like, what is this quote here in a Bible here that you've got? He's like, I am become death. What is the whole quote?
It's a Hindu text. Now I have become death's destroyer of worlds.
Of worlds. And I remembered that line from the movie Hunt for Red October, and he Captain Ramius, or Sean Connery in that movie, says, it's from a Hindu text quoted by an American, but he built an atomic bomb. And that brought me full circle. I'm like, well, this is Oppenheimer. That's who that was. So any of y'all who are old, like us, we are Gen X, could appreciate that. But
yeah, but getting back to the thing is, a lot of this stuff is based on fact, but it is dramatized.
Yes.
A lot. Like I said, he had way more mistresses than were shown in here.
yes, you get the idea. But yeah.
And you didn't need to see the graphic sex because you got the idea already. Going back to that critique. Other than that, it's a supremely well-crafted film.
Yes.
Is it an important film as far as, say, things of, nuclear proliferation, things like that? No. It will have absolutely zero effects on Generation X's and younger's zeitgeist on what nuclear proliferation should be or means. It has zero effect on it. I don't think there's going to have... It's not powerful enough to spark a debate. What it is a really good film about a dude who wasn't as conflicted as he said he was and then became that conflicted.
I'm going to disagree with you there. And I'd love to hear from any listeners who want to opine on this too after you've seen it, whatever your generation is. I think it does. I mean, it not only highlights the making and what went into the Manhattan Project to create the bomb, it also highlights that era of American politics, McCarthyism, and President Truman, Truman, and they mentioned J. Edgar Hoover. I mean, you talk about an era of great fear about communism. That is certainly a big feature, a big underlying line in this movie. And the fear of traitors, of espionage, and then, of course, turning people against each other, to turn them in, to accuse them, sometimes very groundlessly, but with just enough to be like I loved how at that one point, so there definitely is, for those of you who like kind of law and ordery kind of stuff, there's some of that in here. And I loved how one's like, may quite possibly, was that the phrase? He may quite possibly be a KGB agent. He may quite probably or something.
Yeah.
That was the statement this man is accusing them, and they're taking it like, oh, well, there you go. That's the evidence. And it's like, what? This is a statement. May quite probably be an agent. May quite probably be a traitor. And you're like, okay.
Well, that was just a political maneuver. And that was using just surveillance that the FBI had for a certain person's political gain. Not for anything other than that. And had access to that. So the law and the McCarthyism, if you will, would not have succeeded against Oppenheimer. And that's why he was never brought before those boards and everything, because he was bigger than McCarthy or Hoover.
Yeah.
And the McCarthyism didn't last as long as it's been romanticized, but it definitely cut deep.
Yeah.
But it cut deep in things that were really famous. So that's why it's lasted in our minds.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
but
actors
it
and things like that.
The fear of communism is absolutely a big part of this movie. I mean, it's throughout. It's weaved throughout
Yeah.
the entire history that you see.
Yeah, so full spoilers. We're not going to go through a whole plot synopsis on it.
No.
But the bomb, the Trinity bomb, does go off near Los Alamos in New Mexico. And they do show it. And I do believe it's an accurate representation of what happened on that test. The storms that came in when they did it, and the effect on the Potsdam Accords. And I think Truman is, I don't know about recently or how recent it has been, but he was recognized as really not the right guy to be in charge at the end of World War II. He was, I think, acting a bit on hubris. The United States turned the tide in Europe, and the United States ended the war in the Pacific. Like it just did. Horrifically and barbarically, probably, but he was riding high as the victor.
Yeah.
And
Like, I got the biggest gun now.
right, there's a spy, this is, in Los Alamos, who defected and gave Russia the ability to build the bomb. And his main, reasoning that he gave for that was, the United States can't be the only one to have this, otherwise they'll just bomb everybody. And he's right.
Yeah.
Because Douglas MacArthur, he wanted to bomb China into the Stone Age during the Korean War. Once they got past the 38th parallel and moved up into where mainland China was, that's what happened. The entire peninsula was overrun with UN troops, mostly United States, but there were UN troops. He wanted to then bomb that entire area so no other troops couldn't come back in. And he was voted down for that and then taken out of command. So Fuchs was right.
Yeah.
They would have used it if they were the only one that had it. It would have been used again. So the deterrence thing maybe did not happen, but the whole Cold War thing happened. That's why I think it's not going to really change a lot of younger generation's view on it. This is a good documentation. That's not the right word. It's good dramatization. There we go.
Yeah.
Of that era.
Yeah.
And if nuclear proliferation was, when was the last time you saw an anti-nuclear weapons demonstration?
Ugh. Well, I have never seen that. If it has, it's been by video only.
It was since the Soviet Union fell, you never saw it.
Yeah.
Because everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, the Soviet Union fell. They're the ones that was going to bomb us. Which is true. But now you got like 7 to 10 states that have nuclear weapons. India, Pakistan, China, United States, Russia.
Not Canada.
I think they do.
Oh.
Israel. Israel has never admitted to it, but it is widely accepted and known that they do.
Yeah.
So that's a thing. this movie ends on a down note because it ends with basically the Cold War.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to call that out too. We listened to a podcast, Steve Dangle podcast. I'll just call that.
Hashtag Steve Dangle SDPN. Listen to them. They're Canadians, so they have beady lies and flapping heads.
Oh, my Lord.
You know.
But we listen to them for hockey, but they do, They say that a lot on that thing too.
Yeah, buddy.
Producer Drew is a Avs fan, so he has a close place in my heart. But they made, I think they're breakup for summer right now, and they made a statement like, oh, well, it's got a happy ending. And I remember thinking, I'm like, no, there is no happy ending to this. No. And it's not like, oh, well, we won the war. I mean, but look what the outcome was. I mean, and by the way, I am going to spoil this. Kenneth Branagh is in this, which is just one of the many reasons and people I wanted to see it for. But
yeah, he was into promotional material.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm going to circle back to this too. I thought they did an exceptional job. And so if you do go see it at Alamo Drafthouse, they always do a great thing of they'll weave in relevant things to the movie you're about to see. You do see previews, but you see this whole pre-show that usually is they weave together some stuff that's like, hey, this is however way it's relevant to what you're about to see. And they talk about Nolan and the things he typically does in his movies. Motorcycles going by, tripods really.
Trikes. Big ones.
And how he will create suspense through usually cutting back and forth between time. I thought they did I was feeling, my gut was clenching. And I was kind of I actually had my hand on my mouth in case because I get startled. But in case I made a noise when you see them doing the test or, the first test, the first time they're trying this out.
Yeah.
And the suspense was everything. I think he did a great job.
Yeah, and so I would give this a rating. I'm going to rate it now.
Unit of measurement. Remember, we got to do something there too.
Atom bombs. Out of 10 out of 10 atom bombs.
Giving it 10.
Full 10.
Nice.
Even with those critiques, I think it could have been better without gratuitous sex. Nudity is not what I'm talking about. So it's really borderline, not, porn, basically. It's not quite there, but it's okay.
It's not Game of Thrones, yo.
It's not Game of Thrones, but it's close. And it's not nearly as prevalent as it was in Game of Thrones, where I don't watch Game of Thrones, really. But 10 out of 10, atom bombs, because it does a good job of capturing the scientific community, except for a few books about, the Los Alamos Project and, from physicists that wrote books and wrote about Oppenheimer and just what everyone was feeling. And it was, during the war, to say it was a poorly kept secret that there was an atom bomb project is not really true. They didn't know where it was. They didn't know it was Los Alamos. They didn't really know the extent of what an atom bomb could do until after it was done. Once they dropped the bomb, the public demanded knowledge of what was going on. That's when it really kind of came out. Most of the American public didn't know about concentration camps until the end of the war.
Yeah.
Till the very end of the war.
Yeah.
So that wasn't really a reason, for anti-German sentiment at that point. It became that, for sure.
Well, and let's not forget, too, then the United States thereafter.
Anyway,
yeah.
We're not going into that.
Okay.
It definitely captured the sentiment, and it was accurately done. If you're doing a movie in the United States from it kind of spans several years, but it goes, the majority of it is from 1942 to 1945, plus a few hearings after that in 1953. So there was some definite, spanning of time. They capture really the essence of what can man accomplish in the mid 40s, like that real scientific community of we could do this.
Yeah.
This is theoretically possible. Did a really good job of capturing that. Did a good job of capturing the fear. Did a good job of showing fallout, pun intended.
Yeah.
from the decision, and it never felt bored. I didn't feel like the movie was too long, and we saw it, like I said, at the big show at Alamo, which has Dolby Atmos and an IMAX screen, basically.
Yeah.
Phenomenal sound.
Yeah.
I mean, the sound is used great. Barely any soundtrack. I think Hans Zimmer did. There was some music in there, but it is so subtle. You can barely hear it. It's there, but it's like it definitely doesn't intrude. It's not like
I'm gonna disagree in a minute.
other ones in there. It's definitely the sound design. It's top notch. So, what is your rating?
So I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Fishbowl marbles.
You gotta see it.
Yep, you got to see it. I agree. There were a couple of disjointed things. They start the movie out, and you'll see it's like you do some time travel. You do back and forth. So I'll let you all see that. But they had some captions appear on the screen that I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any sense to me. I still doesn't, and that's
What
why
captions? I don't remember.
it said number 1 fission, number 2 fusion.
Yeah, you're talking about the fission.
But it was highlighting people and not actual
right.
science at
These
the
are
moment.
fission bomb proponents and a fusion bomb proponent.
Okay, well,
It was because it cut to
I got
tele.
it. Okay, see, so you explained that to me. I did not get that. That was over my head.
Again, I had to take a college course to understand nuclear.
I'm going to call that out as like a because that later I was wondering what that was. Again, the sex scene not necessary. They certainly could have painted the picture just fine. I'm not really sure what that was about. So yeah, 9 out of 10. I thought it was well put together. I thought that they spared no expense, in my opinion, of making a period piece. And representing it just like you would have seen it. Y'all, I don't even think I saw anyone who's not white on that screen.
That's another thing. Don't be looking for representation.
There's not representation.
Because there wasn't.
And even then, most of the characters were men. There were very few women. And if they were in a wife role, a lover role, or a supportive role.
There were a few women scientists that Oppenheimer brought in as secretaries that actually ended up working on the project.
And they point out...
They do point that out.
They call that out. So 9 out of 10. And I'm going to go back to what you said about the music. There is a point where in the third act...
of 19 acts, it is 5 hours long.
I believe Nolan was really trying to go very intense with the sensory overload so that you felt what Oppenheimer felt in the moment. The music was overbearing, and I remember thinking, I'm almost having trouble hearing the dialogue, but it made sense to me. Why?
Yeah. I would say that's less Hans Zimmer. I think Hans Zimmer did
That's
this
a
one.
Nolan choice.
And more the sound designers and editors Nolan choice.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying sound design, not soundtrack.
It was like that.
We're going to get busted for this guy's music that's on here. And it's really awful wheels. Ugh, Lord.
So yeah, 9 out of 10. It was, I do 10. I'll admit some bias. I love Christopher Nolan. I think many, if not most of his movies, I really do tend to favor. I know you and I were talking a little bit before. Memento, I think you had said you're like, maybe not as
age
great.
well with me.
Yeah. I want to see Inception again, actually, because I only did see that once.
Inception holds up fairly well.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Tenet.
I haven't
didn't
either.
even look interesting.
Of course, we still love I think the Dark Knight series by Nolan is the best I know you don't agree. You like Burton, but I think it's the best Batman movie.
Well, The Dark Knight itself is probably the best superhero movie.
So good.
At least it's up there in the conversation of all superheroes. But we're not talking about that.
Yeah.
About to get on the highway, so we might end this pretty soon.
Yeah, we'll
here.
see. We can keep talking, and if it's bad, I'll just cut it.
Yeah. A couple
Test
of
these
things.
mics out.
I'm gonna definitely IMDb the actors list.
Much.
The one mistress, first wife, whatever.
Florence.
Whatever her name is, I can't place the actress's name.
Florence Pugh.
It's Florence Pugh. Yeah.
And I had to think about that for a minute, but yes, that is Florence
Pugh.
So,
Yeah, not wearing a blonde wig, wearing a red wig. Or red.
She did not do a superhero landing, but she did everything else.
Pretty much. But yeah, and then a bunch of the other actors that you can see that were scientists were all, geez, accident happened there.
Oof.
Well-known actors.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of well-known. You'll also see ones you're like, wait a minute. Like for those Buffy the Vampire Slayer fans, you will see a little cameo from a well-known character in that show. Not a full show. He wasn't in the whole series, but enough to recognize him. And but yeah, just those little bits were good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to talk about the bomb right now. The actual bomb itself, you can see pictures of it. You can see pictures of it being built. That's been declassified. Was an implosion device. And they talk about I know there's a lot of noise here, if you can still hear me.
We'll see.
There's a difference between a fission bomb and a fusion bomb. That's what your subtitles were alluding to. A fission bomb is what was dropped on Japan. How it does is it has a uranium-235 core, which is enriched uranium, meaning that it's been put through a milling process and taken from raw uranium, a lot of it mined in Colorado, where we're at. And then another one was a plutonium core, which is a derivative of uranium as well. Both radioactive, super heavy metal. And the idea is it emits so many neutrons already, that's why it's radioactive. And the neutrons split the atoms of its neighboring atom. To get this to happen in nature, you have to be inside a sun or a star. That's where fusion happens. Constantly, for billions of years. And that's kind of where the fusion ideas became. So when, physics and astronomy and how do suns work, what happens if a sun goes, supernova, black holes, all that stuff. That theory led to atomic work.
Yeah.
Uranium and stuff has been known. Mary Curie is a name you would know. Discovered, I think, plutonium, or uranium. Was handling it. Died of cancer. Horrible death.
Yeah.
That notwithstanding, that's a little beside the point. The bomb itself looks like the bomb. You can see pictures of Fat Man and Little Boy, which are the two bombs dropped on Japan. Right now, if you just Google it, dropped out of the Enola Gay, the B-29, B-26, the bomber, which is at the Smithsonian Institute, I think.
Yeah.
Worth keeping. Not without controversy. It's like this killed 100,000 people. I'm like, yeah, people should know this.
Yeah.
But the bomb itself, how it was detonated, that stuff it takes up a bit of the movie in the middle. It's right in the middle. And then it gets more tense after that. But that tension of the bomb going off, they didn't know it was going to go off. They did not know that the bombs in Japan would go off either.
Yeah.
They had a good idea, but they were like, we don't know. If we announce this and it doesn't happen, they are going to double down.
Yeah.
And Japan definitely would have doubled down. It's come to light in the decades since. The people that wanted peace were outnumbered by the people in control of the army, and were going to really try to till the last man standing type thing.
Sorry, y'all, we just passed a car that seemed to be
like backing
having
into
issues or something.
Yeah.
Not sure.
Not stranded or anything, just in a weird spot in the parking lot. So dropping the bombs did end the war precipitously.
Yeah.
Did they need to invade Japan? Those are the questions and what ifs that you don't really will ever know.
Yeah.
It is possible that without dropping a bomb on a city, if they would have dropped it on a place of Japan that was incredibly sparsely populated, so they could see it.
That's what he referenced.
Right.
He references like just the sight of the bomb going off, that gigantic of a mushroom cloud.
It would have ended the war.
Yeah, it would have an impact. Be like, whoa.
And in the movie, they were saying we're going to drop 2 bombs. That was the plan.
Yeah.
However, had Japan surrendered on the first bomb, they would not have dropped the second bomb. It took the second bomb for the ruling parties and the Emperor of Japan to say, "Hey, we surrender."
Yep.
And part of the surrender, they say it was unconditional surrender. It was the Emperor gets to be Emperor still. That was the condition. And the Emperor was a pro-surrender guy. Toto was like the one that wasn't not. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's the way it was. But they were not 100% on like keeping the war going. They were losing tremendously. But the bomb going off, the sound of it, the sight of it, the what happened with the scientists who were observing it seems very accurately reproduced.
Yeah.
Things I've read about how the scientists, what they were wearing, what the military observers were doing, how far away they needed to be. They found out that they weren't quite far enough away.
That was where they're like, okay, well, theoretically, this should be far enough from the blast zone. And they're like, yes, but we don't know. We're making our best guess.
Yeah.
And they point that out too. I think that they do a good job of saying as well, look, this is all based on people's minds working out the problem and making their theories.
Yeah.
Like he's like, well, you did the math on the blast radius, so we're trusting you.
I'm going off of your math.
Oh my God. I'm like, oh, okay.
Mine was like, yeah. So, I mean, pretty high stakes, obviously. Yeah. Really high stakes. Speaking of steaks, I could use a steak.
More than $4, though.
More than a $4 steak.
Yeah.
Technically, this seemed to really represent what Los Alamos was at the time, what the scientists were working with, how they were working. They did have computers, and basically there was a punch card system, and the computers were size of giant rooms, and all they were doing was just calculus.
Yep.
That would take all day to like do a calculation. It was pretty intense, if you will.
Yeah.
Did a good job. We're home now. I think that's what we should do. It's like however long it takes us to get home is however long the podcast
that's why
is.
this is called the car ride home, y'all. Just like y'all probably talk about movies when you're on the car ride with whoever you went to see it with. That's what this is. We just happen to record it. So
highly recommend it. Do not take it lightly. It is not an easy film to watch at all.
Yeah.
If you have any understanding of geopolitical realities stemming from the Manhattan Project, which is, where Los Alamos was. That was the code name. All that good stuff there. Reading some history books on it would help with some of the technological terms.
That's right.
But highly recommend.
Yes, same. And again, you're going to see it again, so I'm excited to hear more about it. But hope y'all see it. Follow us here on the podcast. I'm literally not doing any more open or intro to the outro of this. This is it. Follow the podcast. I think you'll have show notes too, and you can let us know what you think of the movie in the comments. And see you next time. What movie are we seeing next time? Do we know?
Maybe Barbie.
Maybe Barbie. So next time we see a movie together, it's just the adults here. We'll give you the next review of On the Car Ride Home. Bye.
Bye.